Welcome back, everybody. We are on the 9-3 solving quadratic equations using square root notes. So please go ahead and print the notes. Again, here's the title. It is the 9-3 solving quadratic equations using square root notes. And let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with question number 1. Question number 1 is x squared equals 25. X squared equals 25. Now, we are solving for the zeros, the roots, the solutions of a quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation. It has an x variable that is squared. So we know what's a quadratic. It would form a parabola when graphed. So we just need to know how to solve it. Instead of graph it to find those intersection points, we're going to solve it algebraically and find those intersection points. So the first step is to draw a line at the equal sign. That's what I like to do. And see if we have isolated the variable. Is the variable by itself on the left-hand side? And in fact, it is. So once the variable has been isolated, we take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I know that the square root of x squared, a root and a square cancel. They're the opposite operations. And I'm left with x. And I know that the square root of 25 is 5, but there are two possible roots, a plus or a minus 5. You're welcome to write it minus 5 plus 5 plus 5 minus 5. That's completely up to you. Some kids might even want to write it as 2 points with the understanding that those 2 points are important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That those are my intersection points. The only thing I want from you is this. And I do want to see that work above. I want to see the line. I want to see the square roots. I want to see the canceling. Do you have to draw a picture? No, but I do think it helps you to understand what does that answer mean? What are those solutions? Well, they're the zeros, the roots, the x-intercepts, the solutions to this quadratic equation. Okay, let's try question number 2. So I'm going to erase. We're still on our 9-3 notes. Question number 2 is x squared equals 16. Great. So the first thing we do is we draw our line. Bink. I look to the left of the line. If the only thing I see over here is the letter with that little square of 2, I know I have isolated the variable. That means I have gotten that letter alone. After I isolate the variable, I get the letter by itself. I take the square root of both sides. I know that the square root of a square is what's inside. They're opposite operations. They cancel one another. And that the square root of 16 is 4, but we have 2 roots, positive and negative. Because if you put a positive 4 here, 4 squared is 16. But negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 is also positive 16. So we know we have 2 answers. There you go. There's our final answer. Great. Let's try question number 3. Question number 3. This one's slightly more complicated. Not too bad though. We have p squared minus 9 equals 0. The first thing I recommend, again, is the line. Take your finger and cover up the variable. I can see that on the left-hand side that he's not alone. He has a little friend sitting there, Mr. Negative 9. Negative 9 has got to go. We have to move negative 9 to the other side of the equation. How do we move a negative 9 to the other side? Well, we add its opposite. The opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. And whatever we do to one side, we do it to the other. Boom. 9 take away 9 cancels to give us a 0. We have our variable finally all by itself. Mr. P squares drops down. 0 plus 9 is 9. Now we're not done. We have P equals plus or minus 3. That's our final answer. And I could put 3 back into the original and it would work. I could put negative 3 back into the original and it would also work. So questions 1 and 2 and 3 done. Let's go to question number 4. Great. Question number 4. We have n squared minus 36 equals 0. Let's draw a line where our equal sign is. Let's cover up the variable. We need to take the opposite of him because the only thing that's allowed to be on this side of the equation is our variable squared. So Mr. Negative 36, you gotta go. The opposite of subtraction is addition, and whatever we add to one side, we add it to the other. Boom. 36 take away 36 cancels. I have n squared equals 0 plus 36, 36. And now we have to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to have n equals plus or minus 6. You know you have your final answer when there's a single n, not an n squared. Awesome. So I'm going to stop the video here, and the next video will start on question number 5.